I dropped my bag, stepped into the kitchen, and the coffee hit before anyone said a word. Hot. Sharp. Right across my chest. Kelsey gasped like she was shocked, like she didn't see me there when she spun around with the mug. Oh my God, I didn't mean to. No one moved. Jared leaned against the counter. Mira stood by the fridge. The silence dragged a little too long. It's fine, I said. My voice didn't shake. I pulled my scarf off, pressed it into the stain, held it against the sting. I didn't look down. Didn't look up either. Mira reached out, then froze mid-motion. Jared cleared his throat. We didn't expect you so early. I didn't answer that. The air smelled burnt coffee vanilla creamer, something over-sweet and artificial. I moved past them, still dabbing the scarf to my collarbone. You can put your stuff in the guest room, Kelsey said, grabbing another mug. We cleared a space. I picked up my bag. Rolled it down the hallway. No one offered to help. The guest room was just off the laundry. Folded towels stacked where a headboard should be. I set the bag on the floor and unzipped it halfway. Pajamas. Toothbrush. Beneath that, tucked flat and wrapped in plastic, the leather folder. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I sat on the edge of the mattress. The sheet was thin, the window cracked open. Wind pushed through like it belonged here more than I did. Downstairs, Mira's voice rose tight, brittle. Then Jared's, louder, sharper. Then nothing. I kept my hands in my lap. Counted my breaths. Up, down. No shaking. Not yet. From this angle, I could see the edge of the hallway mirror. My reflection was just an elbow part of my shoulder, and the scarf still damp-stained. I reached for the zipper and closed the bag. Then I stood, moved to the window and listened. The arguing started again. Words muffled, tones not. I pressed my palm to the sill, held it there until the chill numbed the skin. Then I turned back toward the hallway. The voices didn't stop. And I hadn't even unpacked yet. I walked into the dining room and stopped. 6 plates, 5 chairs. I waited. No one moved. Jared poured wine. We didn't expect an extra guest. Mira flinched before she looked down at her napkin. Deborah reached across to pass the bread, skipping me entirely. I found the stool myself, shoved halfway under a side table near the door, scraped it forward, set it down. Sat. No one spoke to me after that. The food was rich, overdone, something with sauce and lemon and oil. My fork scraped once against the edge of the plate. I didn't lift it again. Mira pushed vegetables around. Jared talked about business. Something about investors and image control. Deborah laughed too loud. I counted the knife strokes Mira made across her chicken. 18. All shallow. All silent. When dinner ended, I started clearing plates. No one stopped me. In the kitchen, I saw it just as Mira reached for the sink. Her sleeve slid up an inch. Purple. Yellow at the edge. Circular. A bruise that didn't come from bumping a door. She pulled the sleeve down fast. Didn't look at me. I said nothing. Just kept drying the same glass until it fogged in my hand. Later in the guest room, I sat on the floor with my phone in my palm. Time of arrival, 5:12 a.m. Burned shirt, left shoulder. Chair not counted. Bruise, right wrist. Plum-colored. Bracelet, gold-plated thin links. I typed each word with care. Pressed send. The message went to no one. Just a saved number labeled ongoing. The window rattled a little. A branch tapped glass. I sat back on the mattress, pulled the covers to my waist. Voices again, not loud, just low. I turned off the lamp, let the dark fill in. Tomorrow would be longer. I could feel it in my bones. The scarf was still damp on the chair. I reached for it, pressed it to my chest again. Not for the burn, just to feel something that hadn't changed. Downstairs, the door clicked. Mira's footsteps passed the hall. Slow, barely there. and I still hadn't heard her laugh. I stepped into the hallway and stopped. Jared's voice slammed through the door at the end. It's her trust fund. Why shouldn't I use it? It's not like she knows what to do with it. Muffled reply. Deborah. Low, tight, smug. I held the laundry basket close arms locked. A towel slipped over the edge. I didn't move. It's not stealing, Jared snapped. It's reallocating. Family money stays in the family. I took one step back. The door didn't open. They didn't know I was there. My hands gripped the basket tighter. The plastic creaked. I didn't flinch. I stood there until the voices dropped to whispers again. Then I turned, walked down, turned into the office once the hallway emptied. It wasn't locked. Of course it wasn't. Why would it be? They thought no one noticed anything. The room was cold, clean, rehearsed. Desktop screen off. Books too neat. A file cabinet half shut. The drawer beneath the desk stood open just enough. I knelt. Social Security card. Mira's. Bank statements. 3 names, not hers. A power of attorney form folded in half. No signature, no envelope, no pen. Just paper waiting for permission. I didn't touch anything, just looked, memorized. Placement, fonts, paperweight, the scratch in the upper left corner of the drawer. Then I closed it slowly. Nothing rushed, nothing loud. I stood, straightened the towel that had fallen, placed it back in the basket. My breath stayed level, not calm, just practiced. I walked past the photos on the hallway wall. Jared smiling in 3 suits. Mira only in 1. No child photos. No wedding picture. In the kitchen, Mira stood by the sink again, back turned. Hands still. I set the basket down beside the washer. Reached for the detergent. Started a load. Routine covered everything. The machine clicked. Water rushed in. I leaned on the counter and looked out the window. Trees. Light wind. Nothing special. Behind me, the cycle churned. Under it, my pulse kept steady. Mira's bracelet was gone today. I wondered if she'd hidden it, or if someone else had. The house stayed quiet. Too quiet. But I hadn't forgotten a single thing I saw. I turned off the sink and kept drying. Kelsey's voice cut across the dining room. You're like a houseplant, Mira. You just sit there and suck up sunlight. Jared deserves more. Forks clinked. No one spoke. Mira's head dropped. Shoulders pulled in. She didn't say a word. I pressed the towel harder into the same plate. Already dry. I didn't stop. Deborah let out a small laugh. She's just not used to our pace. Jared poured more wine. She's trying, he said, but his tone curled like a slap. My fingers dug into the edge of the dish. Not hard enough to break it. Just enough to feel the bone press back. I reached into my cardigan pocket, clicked once with my thumb. The recorder I'd used for years, voice activated, already warmed. They kept talking. Mira didn't. I finished the dishes, cleaned the counters. Quiet, measured. I did it all like routine was armor. Later, I heard Mira excuse herself. The guest bathroom door shut fast, no lock click. I waited, counted 30, walked down the hall. Soft sounds inside. Not vomiting, not brushing teeth. I opened the door. She sat on the floor back against the tub, palms to her face, knees pulled in. No words, just the way her shoulders moved, slow, broken, stopping every few seconds, like she'd run out of breath halfway through crying. I stepped in, sat beside her. Not close, not far. She didn't move. I didn't speak. The silence sat between us. Not empty, not safe. I reached into my cardigan again. The recorder was still running. I turned it off, slid it into my shoe. Mira wiped her eyes with the hem of her sleeve. Her hands were shaking. I watched the bruises creep down under the neckline of her sweatshirt. She caught me looking, didn't flinch. I'm fine, she said. Voice thin, mechanical, practiced. I nodded. She stood first, left the door open behind her. I stayed, my back against the tub knees pulled in, and I didn't know whose silence I was more afraid of, hers or mine. Mira spoke before I sat down. They made me sign things. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't break. It came out flat like a fact she'd repeated enough times to believe it couldn't hurt anymore. Jared, she said. Deborah, too. Papers slid across the table. Smiles, reassurance, just management. Just until things stabilize. I was on medication, she added. After the panic attacks. They said it was safer that way. I nodded once. Sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped between us. I didn't understand all of it, she said. I didn't even know what I was signing. They said it was temporary. I reached out and placed my hand on her shoulder. Gentle, steady. That was when my fingers shook. Not much, just enough to feel it. Mira looked at my hand like she'd never seen it before, like she expected me to pull it away. I didn't. I stood, walked to my bag, opened it all the way this time. The leather folder came out slow, not dramatic, just careful. I laid it on the bed and opened it. Inside, a notarized copy of her trust agreement. Original terms, her name, her control. No amendments, no revocation. I'd never destroyed it, never mentioned it. I'd told myself I was respecting her independence, that she had her own life. I was wrong. Mira stared at the paper, didn't touch it. They told me it was gone, she said. I slid it closer. Let her see the stamp. The date, her grandfather's signature. It isn't, I said. That was all. Her breath caught. Once, twice. Then she pressed her lips together and nodded like she needed to hold herself together for a few more seconds. I closed the folder. Put it back in my bag. Get some rest, I said. I'll be right back. I left the room, shut the door softly behind me, stood in the hallway until the house settled. Then I took out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in over a decade. My husband's lawyer, the one who never forgot a clause or a promise. I walked into the kitchen with a notepad and said, "Do you need help with the dinner?" Jared looked up from his laptop, smirked. "You're finally being useful." Deborah didn't even glance my way. "Just keep it simple. Investors like familiar things." Kelsey shoved a packet across the counter. "Here's the caterer. Don't mess it up." I took the packet, nodded, wrote down names, dish options, times, listened more than I spoke. Jared paced while talking about branding. "This dinner is about image. Mira needs to look polished, supportive." Mira wasn't in the room. No one noticed. I smiled. Small, practiced, took notes, asked about seating arrangements, poured coffee. They laughed at something I didn't hear. I laughed with them anyway. Later that night, I stood over the toilet and threw up everything I drank. The coffee tasted bitter on the way back up. I rinsed my mouth, looked at myself in the mirror. My smile held. No cracks, no tremble. In the guest room, I spread out the packet and made copies. Page by page. Guest list. Catering contract. Budget sheet with Mira's name listed last in smaller font. I scanned everything. Emailed it to a folder I created that morning. Labeled it insurance. Then I put the packet back in Kelsey's tote exactly where she left it. Not one corner bent. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, washed my cup. Mira walked in, saw me at the sink and paused, like she didn't know whether to speak or disappear. "Big night coming," I said. She nodded, didn't ask what I meant. Jared walked in behind her, kissed her on the cheek. Too quick, too staged, then told her to remember her lines before walking out. I reached for my notepad again, wrote it down, word for word. By evening, the guest list was finalized. 16 people. 4 high-net names. Deborah was already gloating. Kelsey was rehearsing her laugh. No one noticed I'd added a seat. No one asked why I was still in the room. I wasn't playing house anymore. I was recording it. I heard the slap first. Not skin. Words. "You ungrateful little burden." Deborah's voice tore through the hallway, sharp, measured. I stayed behind the corner. Mira didn't reply. Not a word, just footsteps backing up. Then the thud of a door shutting soft, not slammed. I didn't move. Not yet. Later that night, the house went quiet early. Jared was out. Kelsey was upstairs. Deborah had wine and a closed door. I stood at the sink, wiping the same counter spot again and again, until Mira came in barefoot, hair damp from a shower. Hoodie sleeves pulled past her hands. She poured water. Didn't drink it. I didn't ask if she was okay. That question never helps. Instead, I kept wiping. One more pass. Then I heard it, barely a breath. "Take me with you," she said. "Please." My hand stilled. I didn't answer. Not right away. I just breathed out slow through my nose, eyes closed. That one sentence cracked something I didn't know was still holding. I nodded once. Not for her. For me. That night, I opened my old notebook, pulled out Robert's old estate file, and typed into the recovery page. One old email. One lucky guess. Access granted. I changed the password on her financial account. Logged the activity. Flagged 2 transactions. Saved the history. No one would notice. Not yet. The name on the recovery email still said Robert L. Hammond, secondary guardian. They'd forgotten he ever set that up. I hadn't. By morning, I was up before anyone. I brewed coffee, set out 4 mugs, 1 for each of them. And I waited. The file was saved. The folder encrypted. The invitation list now had 1 new seat and 1 name missing. Jared came in first, groggy. Mira followed a step behind. Their silence said everything. I handed them their cups. Mine stayed warm in my hand. I didn't look at Deborah when she walked in. Didn't need to. They thought the dinner was the performance. They didn't know it was the trap. I stood only long enough to set the recorder on the table. Then I sat back down. The dining room went still. Forks hovered, glasses paused midair. Before dessert, I said I'd like to share something, Jared said. In private. About family finances. Kelsey opened her mouth. Jared raised a hand. "Mom, what are you?" I pressed play. His voice filled the room. Clear, calm, confident. "It's her trust fund. Why shouldn't I use it? It's not stealing. It's reallocating. Family money stays in the family." Silence followed. No one chewed. No one breathed. Then Mira's voice. Soft, quiet, shaking but certain. I didn't say yes. You forged that. Gasps broke the quiet. A fork clattered. Someone stood, then sat again. I didn't look at Jared. Didn't need to. I kept my eyes on my coffee. My hand wrapped steady around the cup. Not trembling. Not this time. Across the table, Mira stared at the center of the tablecloth like it might open and swallow her. One of the investors leaned forward. "Is this real?" I said nothing. Just turned the recorder off and pushed it toward the middle of the table. Deborah shot to her feet. "This is a setup and ambush. That audio could be fake. No one moved. Someone else stood. We'll follow up with legal counsel, but we're not staying for cake." Chairs scraped, jackets were grabbed, kisses avoided. Deborah kept yelling, but her voice sounded smaller with each word. Mira didn't speak. She just stood slowly. Jared didn't move at all, his face hollowed out in real time. One by one, the room emptied. Plates untouched. Wine half drunk. I stayed seated. Still. Calm. The light above us flickered once before settling. I lifted my mug, took a sip. The coffee was cold, but I drank it anyway. Across the table, Mira blinked once. Then again. She didn't smile, but something in her shoulders eased. Deborah tried to speak again. No one listened. Mira walked past her, quiet, controlled. I stood finally and followed. They came at 10 sharp. 3 of them. Suits, briefcases, calm eyes. No yelling, no threats. Just paper. Jared stumbled through explanations. Deborah barked accusations. Kelsey cursed under her breath. None of it mattered. The lawyer handed Jared a notice assets frozen pending review. Mira's trust reinstated. All authorizations revoked except one. Hers. She didn't cry. Didn't blink. Just signed the form with a steady hand. Deborah's face twisted when they gave her the court summons. Mismanagement. Fraud. Attempted coercion. Kelsey tried to argue, but they handed her a second notice. The business license pulled. Lease canceled. Her name stripped from the storefront within the hour. No one screamed after that. By evening, the house had gone still. No plans, no posture, no performance. I walked through the hallway alone. The kitchen smelled like old wine and lemon cleaner. I passed the dining room, touched the back of the same chair they hadn't offered me the first night. My hand stayed there. Just for a second. I didn't sit. I didn't need to. Upstairs, Mira was folding clothes into a suitcase. Not rushed. Not scared. Just done. I helped. Took sweaters off hangers. Rolled jeans. Found her old books in a box Jared had shoved in a closet. We didn't speak much. Didn't have to. When we finished, I walked back downstairs. Took a pen. Wrote one word on a piece of paper. Enough. I left it on the kitchen table. Where they could all see it. The same table where they laughed at her. Where they ignored me. Now it was bare. I looked out the window. No wind. No birds. Just sky. Mira came down the stairs. Pulled her bag behind her. Looked once over her shoulder, then forward again. We didn't say goodbye. Not to the house, not to them. We stepped out. She didn't ask where we were going. She just walked beside me, bag rolling quiet over the stone path. I reached into my coat pocket and closed my hand around the scarf. The same one from the first morning. Still faintly stained. We kept walking. I poured the coffee. Slow. Careful. The steam rose straight. No rush. No spill. Mira was still asleep in the room down the hall. The child, hers not his, giggled once, chasing dust motes in the hallway light. I didn't call out. Didn't need to. The morning knew how to hold itself together. I set the cup on the table. Sat down. Lifted it again. No tremble. No sting. Just warmth. Outside, a truck passed slow down the gravel road. A dog barked once far off. Then nothing. The house was small, clean. Mine technically for the next 6 months. Paid in full. I looked at the chair across from me. Empty. That was fine. I took a sip. It tasted honest. The leather folder sat on the table, worn at the edges. I reached for it. Opened it. Empty. Every copy sent. Every signature filed. Every right returned. Nothing left to hold. I closed it gently. Pushed it aside. The child ran past again, a sock sliding loose on the tile. Mira's voice followed, light, still groggy. I didn't turn. I just watched the window. Sunlight spilled across the floor in long strips. Not soft, not dramatic, just real. I breathed in, held it, let it go. This time there was no noise, no audience, no applause, no lines to rehearse, just coffee, and a hand that didn't shake.